All right. Wait. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin the breakdown of worlds. I think this is the moment to look at everything. I think I want to go in depth into every matchup, and then we're going to piece it together to frame. Let's start off with ZEUS versus Bin. I do think that Bin, of course, at this tournament has, in the majority of games, played Jax. I think that's the crazy part about it, is that, for example, in the last series, Jax Connor, right? I think in this series, Jax, there was the Gnar game from Bilibili, and then in the previous games, it was just banned one time from Bilibili, second time from Bilibili, because Doran is also a big Jax player. So a lot of these games are played on Jax, but I have to say as well that his Renekton is tremendous, his Gnar is super strong, he likes to play Cannon in some spots too, his K'Sante is also very mean, he has champions that he's very good on post, of course, Jax, there's also Camille, right? So even though there's a world where Jax is a ban, I do think that the main thing that ZEUS has in his pocket is the Gragas. Like, his Gragas has looked tremendous this tournament as an answer. I do think that this is something that they will look to explore, because investing a ban into something that you have a good answer to could be, you know, bad. I have to also talk about the fact that I don't think that Bilibili will ban Jax, because I don't think I would place ZEUS's Jax on the same level. I think that Jax being in the pool is something that is beneficial, in my opinion, to the Bilibili side, even though ZEUS also plays Jax. I just think if there's a world where Jax is open, I don't think the Bilibili need to pick it. But if they are going to leave top lane open till 3, I do think that, of course, T1 will have to consider how they approach things. I think in scenarios where the enemy picks Jax here, obviously we've also seen the Maokai answer and the Gragas answer. I do think, though, that in terms of how you have T1 approach the mid to late game, I don't think them playing Maokai top makes any sense. I don't think it makes any sense at all. I don't like it. I said it when this game was rolled out, Genji versus T1 game 2. When I saw Maokai and Braum in the pockets of Keria and ZEUS, I don't think this is the style that they want. I think the best champions for ZEUS are denial champions that give him just team fight presence, you know, champions that are hard to gank on side. Same thing is applied to, of course, FAKER in terms of the champions that he picks. So I don't think they should look for the Maokai. Another thing that T1 need to be wary of, right, if we are thinking about the context of top lane, is in a world where Gragas just gets banned on red side, because I do think it's the optimized answer. I think that if there's a scenario where the enemy team can look for Jax and Maokai is the go-to answer, I do think that this is favorable. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just see a blanket Jax ban from T1 on blue side. I think that if Gragas ban comes through, I think it could be dangerous. I think that just if there's a situation where they have Gragas open, let's say T1 is on red side and they can always match Gragas on 3, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's perfectly okay. In regards to how everything else opens up post Jax being out, then we just move on into Gnar scenarios, right? Gnar scenarios open up Camille. They open up Aatrox in some cases, something that can be played, even though it's not been played much, right? We just think about ZEUS in particular as a player. Bin doesn't like to play Camille. Someone in the chat said T1 can pick Gnar into Bin's Jax. I don't think that's something that you want to do. I think that's really, really bad. Guys, the last time they played the T1 and Bilibili, even when Bin was in bad conditions, he was really, really putting it to the Gnar that game. I don't think this is a matchup that you want to invite back. This is just ultimate comfort, I think, for Bin. He solo killed him, they killed him on side, and these were, like, I think if you put ZEUS in a position where he's weaker on side, I really think that Bin can take over games there. I will pull that up to just remind you. I do think that Bin misexecuted the fights, but I will just show you guys, just so you're in the loop again. Bilibili versus T1, right? So there were the main things that made the game progress for, of course, T1 was... let me show you guys. I will have to find the correct spot. Was Bin TP'd, okay, gets a kill and gets Trinity Force of that kill, which was very huge, right? And then we have the pressure on the side. Let me just find the moment that it occurs. Like I think that so this is the moment, right? We don't get to see the entire exchange, but here it happens. Mega falls off. I don't know if he has E on cooldown. Right now it happens on minimap. He hits the E. I think that you know, in the end, Bin just flashes on him, flash for flash, and then Bin goes, and then he hourglasses because he's planning to finish the item. Right? Probably didn't need to use it, but he did it. And Bin gets a solo kill. Like, this creates a lot of initiative in the game because he's winning side for the rest of the game. And I think if that's the case, I do think that T1 in the in-between, that's their biggest weakness. A T1 in the in-between, meaning before objectives and how they play side, unless of course Keria is dominating the whole game because he's moving fast with Bard and fast with Pyke, which is something that they can entirely possibly do. I do think that T1... I think both teams are very comfortable in situations where they're stronger on side. It's just a very, very strong point in the game to be strong on side. Because as a follow-up here, eventually we're going to have a TP situation on side where they collapse on ZEUS, and these are just moments of benefit. And I personally wouldn't want to see a situation where they play Gnar into the Jax. I think this is something definitely to highlight. So in my mind, I think if they are on blue side, I think banning Jax, but I do think there is a world where they could play Gragas into the Jax, and I think that's passable. So I think there's a world where if Jax gets banned, I think the go-to blind for both top laners is going to be Gnar, and I think that opens up a pool of players maybe picking more reserved things. You can go for the Rumble case. I don't think Rumble is the favorite of either of any of these top laners, but obviously if they're in situations where they have AD mid laners, this is something that can come through, right? In like Yone cases, Rumble could be picked, right? We're just talking about top lane here in isolation, right? So I don't think that either of these top lanes are looking to play Yasuo, but could be Cannon, right? Could be Cannon, and then additionally, of course, we need to highlight the Jace of ZEUS. It's not something that we've seen a lot, but if ZEUS locks in Jace into Gnar, I am excited about that, right? This gets me hyped. So I think definitely that's something that can come through, and I think these are the kind of evolutions that we will go in. If one side needs to blind pick top after Jax is out, I do think the Gnar will come through. Like, Gnar is performing super well at this tournament, and then we will just have the particular answers. You know, we will have the particular answers in these type of champs, which could be, of course, super fun. K'Sante could be picked too, right, due to lane swaps and so forth, but I doubt that both of these players want to be in a situation where they're weaker. Rumble in specific draft scenarios. Silas is a little bit too spicy. Sion, both of them don't want to play. Like, obviously you can get very cheesy and play like Smolder into Gnar, but I doubt that's going to happen. Wrong top laners for that. I think that it's more likely that we go in these type of directions if Gnar comes through. And we just double check, right? It's like K'Sante, Gnar, this is just at Worlds. Jax, there was the Maokai that was particular into, of course, the Jax. Let's just see all time in summer. I think we just check if there's any champion that stands out. Cannon is for both, I guess. ZEUS also played Cannon, even though they didn't have a super much success. Vayne is giga nerf because of the like Ghost just being weaker, items being worse. So that's not going to happen. Yone top could be played into Gnar. Definitely both players like Camille. Jace is of course more of a ZEUS thing, and ZEUS Jace got buffed coming into the World's patch. Twisted Fate is kind of dead. Koki is very dead too. Maybe on new patch you could play Koki. But I think that we have the majority of things covered here in terms of the evolutions that could come. A very, very old school thing would be, of course, Bin GP, but he hasn't played it, as far as I remember, for like ever since fucking 2020 Worlds, right? You guys remember how he blew up G2, like Bin's GP is definitely something that is kind of crazy, but I don't think that's going to be picked. Javan is something that could be played. It's something that I saw in solo queue, but I think like thinking beyond this point in terms of top lanes about blind pick evolutions, I think is not going to happen. If Nara is out, I think Renekton is then the best blind, and then you have to play like Cannon scenarios or Rumble scenarios if that's the case, right? But this is very comp dependent, right? Cannon and Rumble, so I doubt that. I think that the Gnar will just come through as the go-to blind, and I think if Gnar is banned for some reason either side, I do think that maybe we'll see Aatrox blind. I think that we could see Cassandra blind, and in some rare cases, of course, the Cannon and the Rumble, but I repeat, it's very, very comp dependent. I think these are like the evolutions that we will go through. Something that we can check as well is just in terms of the priorities. If we just go to the bracket stage, because we have enough volume now, Billy, Ari via Rumble 1, 2, 3. They swapped up the draft. Yon, Sejuani, Rumble, drop bot into the Kaiser, and then we have Billy switching it up and picking AD 1, 2, 3, and they also switched up to pick Rakan 1, 2, 3 and AD 1, 2, 3, dropping jungle and mid lane. Let's take a look at this. Jax kind of smolder, like this was so easy. This didn't reveal anything. Like if you're in my opinion, if you're red side and you can go in the direction of picking Jax Kana like this, and then third picking AD, I think that you're in such a strong spot. We will talk about Knight's champion pool and how I think that's a massive weapon coming into this best of 5, but we will talk about that when we come to Knight. I think that Zeus has very, very peculiar strengths. I think that he is an insanely good team fighter, very strong laner. But I do think that when he has to play, you know, like when he's weaker on side, I do think that he suffers. And those are the conditions that you want to shy away from, right? In mid game, even against top esports, T1 gave up some towers. They gave up some stuff. But I do think in scenarios where he plays the Gragas in good matchups, when he plays in good matchups and he's playing mobile champions on side and he's not a target, I do think that Zeus is a complete player. But I think that when they need to contest with jungle and support coordinated, I think this is where they suffer. But T1 has solved this issue very beautifully by always making sure that they have a very, very mobile support that has pressure on the map everywhere, right? They're playing Pyke, they're playing, like either they're playing support pairings that allow you to pressure through mid and have full vision around mid, and then by extension, if they can't get the Renata, they always end up in scenarios where they have like a very mobile support. Like this game was a melee support into melee support. This is not what T1 want to do. Like never do that shit. Like I call this T1 loss instantly. That is not the way. But look at their series against top esports. Pyke, there was the Rakan and the Bard. Like this is perfect for Keria. Just give him mobility so he has pressure on the map by being in Fog of War. I think that's a very, very big plus. Because these melee supports in Leona and Alistar and Rel, they move too slow. They can't keep up. They can't keep up in the mid to late game. And with the way T1 like to play, they're very, very farm focused on their jungle in the mid to late game. They're letting ONER clear camps and he's not defending sides so well. So he has to pick up the slack for that. And I do think that Genji as a team don't challenge Zeus on side the same way How Alive would or Billy would. I think that is a crucial difference. I do think that often Keen gets to play in isolation, and T1, I think Zeus did a very, very good job of making sure that waves are pushed. But I also have to say that in these cases, he also was playing, you know, the Gragas, which is mobility, can wave clear, and he was very, very smart about when to push and when not to push. I think he did a very, very good job. So in my mind, right, I like someone mentioned that only like Bin is only better on Jax. I disagree with that. I think that Camille, Renekton, I think that Gnar is like 50-50 in my opinion. I do think that Bin is better than Zeus, but slightly, bro. Slightly. I don't think it's like a big enough advantage to be like, oh, Zeus is gonna get smoked. It's not the same how I feel about Keria and On right now. I think Keria is playing so much better than On. I'm way scared way more scared than that, you know? Been slightly better laner, ZEUS is better team fighter. I disagree. I do think that in this game, though, I think post this game, it's very fair to say. Because Bin was kind of lost in these pockets, you know? Like, what was he doing here? I think here, here I can agree, you know? Here, for sure. In this game, I can agree. So I understand where that viewpoint comes from. But when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at the volume of the World Championship and how important Bin was in that. And then by extension, I did watch every T1 game the entire year and also every Bilibili game the entire year, you know? Like, I don't know. I know that most viewers now, they don't care about MSI, but I think that clash still matters. I think the T1's form is very different now, and Bilibili is a different team now. But I think, for example, during MSI, I think that it was very, very clear to me that Bin is just, you know, just the guy, you know? And if someone says that ZEUS is for sure the best Gnar, I don't know. I think that people are disrespecting the Bin Gnar. Bin Gnar is very, very demonic. Like his Gnar is crazy good. So I don't think it's like determined that ZEUS is the better Gnar. I don't think it's. I don't think it's. I think both are really, really good at Gnar. That's why I think after Jax, Gnar is going to be the blind, and then it's just a question if they can break the Gnar or if the Gnar is going to win out, you know? But okay, I think we talked enough about top lane. I do think that making sure that both players transition well into mid. I do think that in between the fights, I do think that Bin is much better at spotting opportunities to involve his teammates. I think if T1 can get to the team fights and they secure side, I think that they are so fucking dangerous. So dangerous. They are the most clutch, and how good they are mechanically is always insane. If you guys listen to my breakdown of T1 coming into this, I always said, if you can get them into the fights without bleeding, T1 can win, you know? That's the most dangerous aspect of these guys. If they can figure out how to get to the team fights, if they're getting ahead enough in the early game and they're getting to the team fights, mind-blowing how good T1 is. They understand space so well together, and in terms of the relationship with their champion, with their team, with their teammates, like how they posture and how they move is fucking beautiful. Beautiful. But I do think that it's just going to come down to Jack's answers. I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see this as an opening game. And then this game will be so important. So important. Because the last time, which was a long time ago, we saw Jax play against the Gragas of ZEUS, which was 2023. ZEUS did in fact run it down, which is a long time ago. Very long time ago. But ZEUS did win. He did win the game because T1 was better, right? They had better read on the fucking first game. But I do think that ZEUS is looking crispy, bro. Fucking crispy on the Gragas, man. Insane. In the Gnar versus Renekton matchup, ZEUS did beat Bin in lane, which was once again it's 2023, so it's less relevant, right? But but I do think that we will see this opener. I do think we will see this opener. But the evolution will be either you ban Jax or you drop the Gragas ban. So the continuation here, I guess we talk about jungle. I think jungle's pretty straightforward, right? I do think Skarner is just a top dog. Skarner is just the best. And then the evolutions past it is just Sejuani, Vi, and of course the Wukong answer into the Vi. And then the question is if Maokai will come through as a champion. I do think that both of these players are just playing roles, right? And then after that, you have the Kindred evolution for, of course, Bilibili. I think the T1's Kindred is giga fake. I think it's insanely fake. So I don't think they're going to be playing it. What other champions did Oner actually play at this tournament? Let's take a look at the world's main event. What has he been playing? Because it's like Skarner, Vi, Wukong, Sejuani. We had the Xin answer. We had Poppy one time. Basically a very supportive champions. I do think that's the best variant of... I do think that's the best variant of Oner. When champions have insane amount of potential in their kit and they are supportive, like for example Skarner ult has insane potential, Vi has insane potential, I do think this is the best version of Oner. Like, I think like the legendary Oner champs, like in the past of course it was Lee, but Lee is not a champ, but I think of Vi, I think of Rel jungle, I think of Poppy. Like when the buttons carry a lot of force, this is where I think Oner is the strongest. I don't necessarily want him to farm or play carry, but I do think that for how T1 want to play, in order for Keria to have the space and room to pick whatever the fuck he wants, Oner needs to play cleanup. It's like the role of Faker and Oner on this team for the longest time has been to create fights and to create space for Keria and ZEUS and GUMAYUSI. Like, Keria and ZEUS are very peculiar players. But if they have the conditions to play the way they want to play, a player like Keria will take over a game. But in order for someone like Keria to have space to pick Pyke, to have the space to pick Bard, right? You need to have champions like Sejuani and Sylas in place. And if you think back to when T1 suffered the most, is when the roles were reversed. When Keria needed to play Rel, Leona, the facilitator, for Oner's carries, they didn't look the greatest. Even though Oner can play a fantastic Viego or whatever, right? I just don't think that's their biggest strength, you know? I do think that the main facilitators is, of course, FAKER and Oner. I don't think either jungle will play Ivern, even though I think there's room for it. I think Ivern is still giga strong. Like if we think past these points, you know, of the regular suspects, I do think that these type of champions can be fantastic. Like I think these type of champions can be really, really fucking strong, and I think they can be underrated. There's also the Nidalee of Shun, which is good, but that goes both ways. I think Oner is also good Nidalee, but once again, I don't think it fits the scheme of what they want to do. Right? I don't think it fits the scheme of how T1 thrive in their games. Like Oner is a fantastic Diana, fantastic Nidalee. He's not a bad Kindred. I just don't place that in how they play. You know, I really just don't place it how they play. You know. So there's that, you know. I just think that there's going to be a big focus on Skarner. And then if the Skarner gets banned for some reason in the 1-2 because you want to prepare for an Ashe first pick or something like this, then I think just Vi / Sejuani is going to be the prio. And then the question is, where do you go from there? It's like either you go for a Wukong case, or you go for a Maokai case, or you just set up a Kindred case with the Galio, Nico, and so forth, right? I do think that's the direction we will head in jungle. I think the jungle will be picked early in most cases, and I could see a Wukong being picked into the Vi, right? Like let's say you have a rotation that looks like this, where you go in that direction, you know. It's also like Shun really likes Vi too, so something that could be contested, and I think the answer would be Sejuani in most cases. There's also, of course, the Poppy. Maybe that's something that they invite, right, with the Jax Vi or so forth, right? It's definitely something that could happen. And the Poppy could also show up for, of course, Mr. Oner, right? Maybe we should check their solo queue accounts just to be sure. Tracking the pros bootcamp. Bin is in game right now, so we have we just sorted by team. We have. Let's find T1. T1, there they are. GUMAYUSI, Taco, Genius, Zimmer, Heidenbusch, Roach, Keria, Oner. Alright. Alright. So this is... Who's this? This is Knight. Alright. Nar, Akali, Cassiopeia is low-key interesting. Cassio is kind of interesting, otherwise we don't see anything new here. LeBlanc, something that is really good on too. Cassio I'm just interested in because it could be a potential answer into Sylas, right? We continue. Onk? Who's Onk? So it's just on, but Onk. He's spamming Pike. Holy, he's spamming Pike, guys. The main... Oof, okay. Is this Keria? This is Keria. Alright. Let's just check... Holy, bro, look at Shun, bro. He's fucking almost rank 1, bro. He's rank 12. Holy, bro. The Morgana answer. The Morgana answer into the Vi. There we go. This is Way? Oh, shit. This is Way, actually. Alright, let me pull up Tracking the Pros again because I am wasting a lot of time guessing who the fuck is who. So forgive me. It was this Force Dark page, so you guys are not flashbanged. Let's go team again. So we had that's Way. You guys are right. That is Way. Look how many games he has played, bro. He is fucking grinding, bro. I respect that though. I respect that. Let me see now. So this has to be. This has to be. Okay, mute. This has to be ELK, right? ELK. ELK is not doing anything interesting. Just Kalista, Varus, Xayah, Ezreal. Alright, nothing interesting there. Taco Genius, Kalista, Ashe, Kai'Sa. Alright, Kai'Sa is low-key interesting, but I never thought GUMAYUSI was good on Kai'Sa, nor did I think that he is super good on Ezreal either. So if he prepares the Kai'Sa, could be cool. It could be cool. Like he has played 12 games of Kai'Sa. 12 games of Kai'Sa. Let's continue. Yeah, Xayah is crazy. Like my favorite champions for GUMAYUSI, of course, is like Xayah, Ashe, Jhin even, Varus, of course, Caitlyn. Like I prefer him on those champs, you know. Kalista, Draven. Okay. So we wanted to check Zeus. Zeus with the Jarvan here with phase rush into Zillion top. Alright. We have the Rise top with fleet footwork. The fuck? Fleet footwork. And then Echo top with grasp and hollow radiance into Rumble. I think, bro, he's just spamming Azir. What is he cooking, lads? What is he cooking, man? He is completely deep frying. It looks like he low-key gave up on solo queue, guys. He's playing like 1-2 games per day, you know? So I don't know how to read into this. He has not been playing a lot of games recently. Alright. This is Faker's account. Let's see, Faker. It's just Sylas, Yon, Sylas, Galio, hype. That's hype. But he breaks the norm and he makes his own build here with the Proto build. No Holo Radiance. And then I honestly, I have to say, people were talking about Aurora or Faker. I thought that the one Aurora game he played in LCK, I thought he was one of the best Auroras in the world. And I obviously got disabled and nobody played it, but I think Faker was one of the best Auroras in the world. Like, no joke. He was doing shit that I hadn't seen. He was doing shit that I hadn't seen from other Auroras, bro. Like, the Aurora players that stood out to me, out of all Aurora players, let me tell you, it was Kingen, and Faker. I think Kingen was really tragic, but I thought his regular split was kind of good in LCK. And I thought that his Aurora was really good. Like, Kingen and Faker were the best Auroras that I saw, in my opinion. Alright, this is Bong Bong. This is ONER. Oner has played 33 games of Smolder? That I have to say, I know everybody hates Smolder, but honestly, Smolder is so fucking fun. It is one of the most fun champions in the game. So I get it. Smolder is really fucking fun. And I know we mentioned before that both Bin and ZEUS are great NAR players, but they don't really compare to this guy. But yeah, I repeat, Smolder is one of the most fun champions in the game. But all right, so this isn't super serious. So this has to be Bin then, yeah? This has to be Bin. This has to be Bin. Just double check Bin. Yeah, it's Bin. Rumble. I was saying this on stream. Everyone hated on Bin's Rumble, and he was definitely like good laner, but then forest fires. That was Bin. You know, forest fire ultimates is when he like burns terrain and doesn't hit any champions. But he played it in every CQ game possible, and I knew he was fucking good because he was toasting. Like I legit watched maybe Bin play 20 games of Rumble in Champions Queue. But this is the one that I'm the most hyped about because I think the Camille is the next evolution post Jax. Camille is gonna be his answer into NAR, which I think is giga hype. I think it's giga hype. Triple star. This is Keria. He's just playing Teemo and Aram, and Ezreal and Ari. Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck. It's such a weird spot, right? It's such a weird spot because basically we have the situation where I don't know what kind of practice these teams are getting. I really don't know what kind of practice these teams are getting. But we covered jungle. I don't think anything else will stand out. Like we didn't find Shun. Where is Shun? Where is Shun? Discovered accounts. Where's Shun? Where's Shungite? Shun. Huh? Shun. We don't have Shun? But I swear that I saw his games. I swear that I did. Alright. I'm pretty sure he has an account. I don't know why they just... I'm pretty sure that he was on Tracking the Pros. No idea. That's so weird, no? Okay. Ollie. It's been Billy on Camille. Camille support. But okay. Let's continue with the breakdown. I think we talked about jungle, but the Morgana angle did look interesting, by the way. Like, if Wei is playing it, I do think there's a world where they are preparing it. Not gonna lie, man. I do think that there is a world where that could be prepared. Like, there has to be some spillover in the prep, right? Like, I know Wei's account is not Shun's account, but this could be like an angle, right? Okay. So, mid lane. I think mid lane is giga interesting. Mid lane is giga interesting because, as mentioned before, I do think the Faker side of it, right? I do think that he needs to play the facilitator. People, like, there was this meme about, like, we had it on Power Spike as well, that fucking Riot made the meta for him, or for T1, but Orianna and Azir are not being played at all, right? I don't think that Orianna is viable, because in the past when he played Orianna, he would like buy a crown into Hourglass, and then he would be able to tank side and no one could dive him. and he would just be a fucking initiator. Azir as well, and Azir is kind of out of the picture. So what does Faker have? Like all of these champions in common have the same thing in common, right? That they have tools to farm side and isolation. Ori still gets banned against Faker. It's of old. It's of old. Where did it get banned against Faker? No, like it didn't happen in this series. It didn't happen in this series. It just happened early on in the tournament when people didn't know better, you know? That's all. So we're in a spot now where I think most of the time Faker picks early, right? He picks early, and this is where he always lands. I think that this is definitely a series where Genji Bandit, let me see. Genji Bandit, but this was 4-5, no? When they have Ahri shown and Caitlyn Kindred Braum. Like, this is very, very specific, no? This is very, very specific. It's like in 4-5 cases, sure. All right. In 4-5 cases, okay. It's like you're blinding on blue side and you're going 4-5 and you're just banning for matchup. Okay, sure, that happens. I think that, in my opinion, I don't think it really fits how they want to play. I don't think it's super, super good. In my mind, I think if you want to first pick Yone for Faker, I do think the Jax ban makes even more sense. Because I do think that Jax is the best top laner into it. I think Renekton doesn't carry the same value. But I wouldn't be surprised as well if they skip it and they just ban Yone themselves. I don't think that T1 ever wants to be in this situation where they make this trade. I think this trade is just plain and simple bad for both teams. I think both teams, if they do this trade, they lose. I was much in shock in the opening game here that Genji picked Renekton. I thought Skarner Ashe, damn, that's a great trade. Skarner Ashe, and then they can choose what they pick on 3, no problem. What's the difference between their playstyle now and last year? No, last year you could just go tank Orianna. That's the difference. Orianna could be, he just built tank Orianna. I think that Genji's prep was completely terrible. Like Kalista, Xayah, and to give Ashe, like how that doesn't make any sense. They would pick Ashe over Kalista, Xayah every time. Like this prep was awful. Like Genji's prep was really, really bad. And then the one game where Kalista, Xayah, Ashe is out, then it makes a little bit more sense, right? And then they went to Kate, because I think Kate is inherently not super strong. But then we returned, and the evolution was that T1 banned Yone on blue side. I think it's not unlikely that Yone ban also happens on blue side. I think that this is something they could definitely set up for. I think the main question is if they're going to challenge them on Aurora, because I do think a scenario like this could also be interesting. I do think this could be very, very interesting. Before we talk about support, well, we're going to like really break down every role. We're going to focus on every role and then put it all together in the end. There will be timestamps or whatever. Of course, I don't know what the fuck I just did. Aurora. I think that the main thing that Knight has going on for himself is that Knight can do what Chovy didn't do. I think that Chovy put himself in a position where his champions couldn't be as impactful as they needed to be. Like, he needs to be a driving force in the game, and he wasn't, because he picked himself in matchups where Faker's champion scales better. And I think the Faker's playing good enough, like he's playing very, very well in comparison to Summer, that you can't pick a weaker champ and think that you're going to get away with it. That's just not possible. So it's like when you had those scenarios where, for example, you're playing Ahri against Sylas. I think the Sylas side is favored. I don't like that, you know? I don't like that. I think Sylas scales better, has better itemization, the ult power is too good, and this is something that Chovy invited. He picked Sylas into Yone. This is something that he invited. On side, he was losing over time and he couldn't exude any pressure, so T1 has an easier time exuding pressure. My point is, it's the early lane phase doesn't matter as much as how well your champ scales into, of course, the mid to late game in terms of how you contest side. That's the main thing. And if you have a scenario where you pick a Kali, like if the prep is, if you end up in a scenario where this is the prep, right, and this is where you end up, I do think that red side is looking good here. It looks good here. I don't know what scenario you can create for yourself where you start banning champions in hopes that you're gonna get a clean Yone. I just don't think it's good. I think it's important to reserve the first pick spot to make sure that the trade is 1-for-1 or 1-for-0. Because I do think that Ashe is pretty OP in matchups like these. I think that Yone is a blue side ban for both teams. And beyond that, that is where Ahri versus Sylas comes in. Or if you blind Sylas, then there's the Galio. Like, I do think that these type of scenarios, the question is then if it makes sense to drop 4-5 for FAKER. I do think it makes a lot more sense to drop 4-5 for FAKER because at least they can chip away at the pool. Like, let's say they ban Galio to set up Sylas and they have an answer into Sylas in case the enemy 4-picks it, and then it looks better, right? And then they begin to challenge, and then let's say like Orianna becomes strong because Ahri is out, and then all of a sudden it's like Sylas, Ahri out, and then maybe you can actually play the Orianna angle. Or maybe like somehow the Azir creeps in. I do think that picking mid 4-5 is better for T1, and I think it's worse for them to pick it early. It's going to be very intriguing to see how Aurora plays out because most teams are really just respecting Aurora and it's just permabanned. I think I have to trust the fact that every team is doing it, that there is enough scrim data that everyone just agrees this champion is giga bonkers, right? Like every team is just banning it on red against specific players, and both teams play it. I think there's a world where you leave it open to set up this type of a trade too, right? If it comes down to it, but I do think that there seems to be something in the air in regards to scrims that that comes down to it, you know. So I think Yone ban could happen. I don't think that the Rakan ban is necessary because I do think that as a player, of course, Keria is very comfortable playing into Rakan because you invite range champs. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a world where Jax ban still comes through and maybe a super ban. But the main thing for me, right, is that the Renata blind pick worked so well against Lehens because he was picking champions into it that Keria himself would pick Renata into. So for example, Rel or whatever, right? And even though On has played range champions very good historically, at this tournament, he doesn't look good, right? But more on that when we get to support. So in my mind, I think Yone ban is very, very good. I think both players are happy to play into Yone if it comes down into it. Knight didn't look like the best smolder, but like that Kali looked pretty damn good for both players in my opinion. I do think that a Yone ban and then drop mid into a ban setup for your Ahri and Sylas makes a lot more sense. I think in an ideal scenario, if you're T1, you land on something like this, you know, in the 1-2-3 with Jax out, or like with a Gragas answer, and then or maybe the Jax for yourself if the enemy is inviting, you know, if they didn't pick Jax here on 1-2, right? I think that's the ideal scenario. You could also maybe set up Jungle and argue that you should set up Jungle, which could be the case too, right? If Renata's banned. But I think it's just important to make sure that, like in my opinion, I do think it makes sense to 4-5 mid lane for FAKER. I think the situation just becomes better. Yeah, it's weird, right? Because I do think that Genji's prep work was awful, right? It's like T1, they got Vi in 4-5, which is very, very surprising, right? They get Vi in 4-5, which I really don't understand, right? Akali was a curveball that they locked in, good into Nocturne, good into Jax. Like they just get Vi in the 4-5. They misbanned AD carries in these games with the Kalista Xayah, and the Kalista Xayah here just gives up Ashe for free, right? Like, I get their idea. They're banning AD carries that they don't want to play, but banning Kindred after the previous game against the enemy team, I think they just had terrible read on what the enemy wants to do, you know? Genji had a very, very bad read. So I think there is an argument to be made for Vi needing to be picked, you know, Vi being picked earlier, you know? That could definitely happen, you know? That could definitely happen. And then you just go super 4-5, because I do think that the Renata ban is very likely. I think a Renata ban is very likely. And then the question is, you know, I mentioned mid lane. I think how Knight can get an edge is if he goes deep enough in the counter pick. I think that's like the hope for him, because at this tournament so far, if we compare like the champions played, it's incredible how many champions Knight has actually been playing, you know? We have the Akali. It's funny that both of them had very, very good Akali performance, and that's fucking insane. Both of them the best Akali. You done soon, Angel? I need maybe like 40 more minutes. I'm sorry. Time is running away from me. The Ahri and the Sylas, I think there are clear answers into it. And then just where do we go from there, you know? Because now we've seen answers into both Ahri and Sylas. But it could be interesting, like I say you go 4-5 and then just a Sylas ban. I think that could go a long way. Maybe you ban Sylas for 1, 2, 3 because you don't want to blind it and you want to set up the Ahri blind, and then you have answers into Ahri. You know, I think that that part can be extremely good. You know, I think that's like I just don't think they should invite Sylas' answer into Ahri. I just think that's a mistake. I really think that's a mistake. Like, and then the question is, how deep can Knight go in terms of countering and still have agency enough to pressure the enemy on side? I think that's like the main question. I think that part is the most important. Yeah, for bot lane, we already mentioned Ashe, a very, very high prio. After Ashe is out, I do think that Kalista becomes very strong, but this is where, of course, the pocket pick Draven can go a long way in terms of setting that up. But I do think that targeting the Renata out of the pool is super important, because obviously, like the elements of how the support dynamics matter in AD is super important. I do think that when Ezreal and Kalista is out, Ashe and Kalista is out, I do think that that's where the edge starts to fall in the pocket of ELK, in my opinion. I do think that Ezreal and Kai'Sa are champions that most likely GUMAYUSI won't play, and he will look to play the Jhin, Varus, and go in this direction, right? He will go in this direction. I think Varus fits the bill for what they want to do. And then, of course, Xayah is a particular answer into Kai'Sa if it gets blinded, but that's not something that anyone should ever invite, you know? Because keep in mind, Xayah is something that both teams play, and I do think that as you go deeper into the pool, I think ELK's advantage is that he has Ashe and Kai'Sa, because ELK is also a player that has played Kate. The main advantage, of course, is the Draven into Kalista, so there could be a world where we have the Varus answer into Kalista if it gets blinded, right? Because Ashe is out because of a ban or something like this, right? Could happen. And then you have Varus into Kalista, because I think that's the go-to answer for ELK. But if there is a circumstance where Ashe and Kalista is out and you leave open Renata, I do think that they're just going to slam Varus and pair it with Renata. So I do think that the Renata ban is just good to stick. I think you should just stick the Renata ban no matter what. Regardless if you give Ashe or you don't give Ashe, because you can, let's say you pivot into Ezreal against Ashe, or you look for Kai'Sa lane swap, or you play Varus, or you play Ziggs, right? Like, I think these are some things that could be done, but it should come at some kind of reward, that you get Skarner, and let's say you get Skarner Jax, you know? Like, you're not just giving Ashe for free. That's definitely not something that you want to do. I think it's important. So the evolution as followed is Ashe, Kalista, and then the answer is right after it's Varus. That's the evolution, and then post that point it's like Ezreal, Kai'Sa, Kaiser, I think no one's gonna blind. I don't think ELK will ever blind Kaiser to invite like good Xayah spots, because both teams have done that. Like if we take a look at this game of Bilibili, sorry, where is the game of Bilibili? I think it was against Hawa Life, right? Where they had this one, Zyra Khan into Kaiser Slam. That's also something that T1 has done, right? Xayah Slam against Kaiser. That's not something anyone wants to do. Like both are crazy good on Xayah, and it's one of GUMAYUSI's best champions. So I don't think this is something that you invite. But I think these are the evolutions that we're going to go in. It's like Ashe over Kalista. So I definitely think there might be scenarios where Ashe should just be left open, because maybe the issue of facing Kalista when Ashe is banned is far greater than just like maybe they will consider this worse than a different scenario, you know? Because the issue is maybe you don't want to pick Kalista yourself here because the enemy is going to pick Draven. But also Bilibili is crazy enough to maybe fucking invite this, because they're like, yo, we're gonna just pick it, we're gonna counter pick support and we're gonna win the matchup. Because that's something that is entirely possible and something that has happened many, many times. Misfortune is a champion that can be played too, yeah, sure. But I don't think it's super important. I don't think it's super important to highlight. Yeah, T1 is definitely not dropping fucking Caitlyn Broms ever again, that's for sure, bro. I don't know what the fuck this draft was from T1, but this was a DRX draft from 2020 against Damwon, you know, like this was a goofy ass draft. This was very strange. And okay, and the support dynamics, as mentioned before, is like On has really only played good on Rakan. Like On has had a horrible tournament, very, very bad tournament. I really, really don't think that he's been playing well. I rated him as the best support coming into this tournament, but On has been very bad. I think that Keria has created the biggest gap between himself and anybody else in comparison. He has created the biggest gap between himself and anybody else in comparison to any other player. I do think, like, I think Knight is slightly better than Faker. I think that Bin is slightly better than ZEUS, but we're talking about small percentages, you know, small percentages. But Keria performance over On's performance is, it's like, it's really, really massive, you know? It's really, really massive. And that is where the biggest concern comes in. I don't know where Keria will go when Renata's out. That's my main question. I don't know where he will go when Renata's out. Really no clue. Because in the Gen G series, this was the first blue side games we saw from T1. They played a game against Pain Gaming too, and that was also Renata blind. Renata blind, Renata blind. 3 games Renata blind. Where does he go from there? I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. I think Rakan could definitely be something that he contests. Definitely. He could just maybe just pick Rakan. Could be it. And that's it. Maybe it's just as simple as that. And then they just pick Varus and they're happy with it. Or they pick Kalista and they're happy with it. Maybe just say fuck it, you know? Could be. It could be the case that this is just, oh, we pick Rakan away from On, and we're happy. Because if he picks Rakan, I have many answers. I have millions of assets. We can play Kate Lux. It's a good game for Kate Lux. We can pick Kate Lux. Boom. Against Rakan. He can't fucking lane. I can play Bard. I can take it easy. What the fuck did I just do? No, did I just turn it off? What did I do? Oh. Because the Rakan, if On blinds Rakan, it's like very easy, right? It's just fucking, you can go Kate Lux, you can pick Bard lanes, you can play fucking Lulu if you want to, bro. You can do a million things into Rakan that is, in my opinion, in the comfort of the homie, right? You could even play Ashe support if it comes down to it, you know? It's like, you have answers into Rakan. But I do think that Rakan is strong, so it could be the case that like Rakan still wins out these games to grind them out, right? So there's that, you know? There is that. Most likely, if enemy don't pick support, I wouldn't be surprised if a Rakan just comes through on blue side. And that's it, you know? Like Ashe Rakan is very good together because Ashe is just... Look at this guy in chat. What research is needed? T1 doesn't lose to LPL, bro. Never mind that they lost to LPL this Worlds and are Rare 5 against the LPL at MSI with this roster. Oh, he's just memeing. Stop doing research, bro. You're helping Billy. He's just memeing all the memes. I was about to tear into him. I was about to say, well, don't watch the finals then if the result is predetermined. Good bait, good bait. All right. So, in the grand scheme of things, right, if we put all things together, I do think that Yon on blue side is something that both teams would want to do. I think that Renata ban is something that is interesting. I wouldn't be surprised if Aurora is just a locked ban, and then I wonder if what we're going to land on is just a scanner, and then I wonder if this is just something that we're going to land on. It's like something like this, you know, where you're going to have the answer of course, you're going to have the answer. Like if like the opening game could look something like this. It could look something like this, really. And then you pick the pairing. Could be as well that they just pick Vi here and drop support. Could be something too, right? Where they pick something like this. Like this could be the rotation. And then you play the game, right? You play the game. I wonder if, like, let's say he is bold enough to see, oh, I have good ults here. I'm going to pick Sylas, and then I'm going to ban Galio X to set up Sylas for success. That's something that could happen, right? That's why I think that it's not crazy, in my opinion, to think that Sylas is a ban. I think that T1 banning Sylas on blue side actually fucking makes sense to me. I think it actually makes sense to me. The issue is, guys, like people talking in chat about not giving Ashe, is that you have to pick your poison. Like, let's say they ban, let's say there's a triangle right now with Yon, Scanner, Ashe. And then the enemy bans Yon on 3, and then you're left there where, oh, if we ban Ashe, the enemy first picks Scanner and we get nothing. That's just not good enough. Like, you have to be willing to do some kind of a trade. Otherwise, enemy third ban is always going to fuck you over. Because the Yon ban on blue side is very likely. That's my point. Because if you ban Ashe here, as an example, still, it's like your Kalista is not looking super exciting because the enemy has the Draven, right? It's not looking super exciting because they are also played Pharos, and you also removed Renata yourself already. So the Kalista, even though ELK is a great Kalista, I do think that in a world where Kalista is in the picture, I do think that that's where, of course, T1 is happy. I think T1 is happy there. So I wanted to highlight that. So I think that in my mind, I do think that if you land here somewhere, I do think it makes sense. I do think in the opening game, in my opinion, I think that we will see a world where Jax will be left opened. I think that either ZEUS will pick it 2-3 or they're going to answer Gragas with it. I think this is just a smart way of opening a BO5, in my opinion. Because I do think that ZEUS's Gragas has been different this tournament. Because otherwise you're playing with Jax locked ban the entire BO5. If it doesn't work one game, okay. But if it works that one game, you have created such fucking agency in this best of 5. Such agency in this best of 5. He can play Gnar into us also. No, I don't think he should play Gnar. I think that's really losing. I think ZEUS's Gragas has been fantastic. I think this is where you start, honestly. I really think that this is where you want to start, in my opinion. But yeah, I hope the point that I made here makes sense. Because if the enemy bans, these are the prior champs, right? If the enemy bans one here, then the enemy has the strong part about blue side is that you get to choose your poison first. Like, you get to choose the strongest, what you perceive as strongest. And like, the thing is, if here red side as a response to the Yon ban bans Ashe, you get Skarner for free, and it's just not good. I hope I've made that clear. But I do think Sylas on blue side is a very good ban. What will Faker play into Ahri if Sylas is banned? He can play Orianna, he can play Akali, he can play a lot of champs. Ahri mid is not super strong. He can play Galio even. He can even play Nico if it comes down to it. There's a lot of champions you can play into Akali, but Sylas can get very dangerous post bans. I think that like this as well, then Faker has the option to pick Ahri early. And I think that's super good, right? If Sylas is out, if there's nothing else to pick, let's say they pick Vi Ahri, then they are quite happy, right? Like let's say we have the Ashe first pick. Like this could be a very solid draft for T1 as an opener, right? And then because Sylas is banned, it makes everything better. I think the Sylas ban on blue side is very strong, in my opinion. And I think that we are going to just see a Skarner trade. And then the other side is if the Skarner is the second ban, maybe T1 is super happy to fucking land on something like this. Could be that they're happy to land here. Could be. Could be. Like their Kalista is mean. Their Kalista is fucking mean as fuck. Guys, I'm not going to repeat things because you guys are asking questions that I've already answered, and it makes for really terrible flow. I think that Yone first pick. I think Yone first pick is just handicap. Really, I think it's handicap. Another thing is, right, if they leave Renata open, we could see the Nico answer into it. Like, On was really good at Nico when he played it the last time it was meta. And it's a good answer into Renata, in my opinion. Because it lanes super well, and the engage is kind of hard to read. It's good, you know, in my opinion. But he hasn't looked fantastic. So there could be a world where they're like, oh, we just want you to be comfortable on, you know? Now we talked about draft. I want to talk about gameplay patterns too. I do think that when it comes to lane swaps, like level 1 lane swaps, I think T1 is better than Bilibili. So that's an edge, in my opinion. I think that in terms of fighting, I think that both teams are fantastic at fighting, but I do think that T1 is better at playing diverse comps. So basically, I don't like Bilibili when they need to kite or they need to be very intrinsic about how they use their abilities. I think T1 is much better at playing out those compositions, you know? But Bilibili, when they play comps like this, Rakan, Jax, Kai'Sa, Galio, or they play comps like Rakan, Wukong, Gnar, Ashe, Sylas, then I think that this is when they're playing champions that want to brawl it out. I think that in terms of how they flank and converge, they are insanely fucking good. So I think the T1 are fantastic team fighters. Their strength, when I compare the way they fight, is just that their diversity of how they like to fight. They can play slower fights, they can play poke, they can play in very, very unique pockets. They are a little bit more fluid in the way they fight when it comes to champions, in my opinion. I think that when it comes to T1's mid-game, I think that when we look at Keria's champions, it was the Pike, the Bard, the Rakan. These are champions that cheat tempo, right? They're very fast, very mobile. They cross into pockets. Keria's heat map in terms of warding is always in these pockets. And I do think that he does things on his own all the time, and ONER is perma full clearing. Like ONER farms a lot, guys. He farms a lot. And if his solo laners, if ONER's solo laners can push and be safe on side for free, and Keria is getting enough information on his own to secure Gumayusi, then their mid game works. But if not, it kind of falls apart, as I showed in the highlight before. I think that Shun and On are better at collapsing onto side. And I think if you want to break T1 mid game, you want to create the map openers where you do the Hanwha Life map openers. Basically, as Keria is moving first into these spaces to secure Gumayusi, you want to be first to kill ZEUS on side, to kill FAKER on side, because they play in isolation. Keria is very happy. He has achieved his job when he spots people on the vision he creates. He opens like this, and you need breakthrough by doing the How Alive openers. I will show you guys as an example. How Alive versus Fly. Game 1. How Alive were winning this because look at their map openers, okay? They just open on side. They cross into side instantly and ignore the neutrals on mid. And this is how you kill FAKER. This is how you kill ZEUS. This needs to be the game plan. If you try to contest Keria on mid when he plays for tempo and he plays the space of plays to the range of his champ, this is T1 comfort zone. They will run the map with you, 100%. That is like T1's identity, right? It's like he's playing supports perma that can take information on their own. Because something that has happened in the game is that with no Moby boots, these Alistars and the Zrel and the Leonas, they move on the map very slow. And when they get caught, they die. Maokai, when he gets caught, they die. Like Rakan is very hard to catch. Pyke is very hard to catch. Very, very difficult to catch. And the way you break T1's mid game is through very, very clever movement. And I have to say, even though top esports looked like ass against T1, T1 did lose a lot of towers because top esports had better initiative in their jungle and support prio. And that is a sacrifice that you pay for having a jungler that farms a lot. Genji have the same issue. Not issue, but the same playstyle. Canyon and Oner love to farm, while the junglers like Shun and Wei and even Tian and these type of players, they are willing to contest to make sure that they pressure on side. And you saw it in the first clash of T1 versus Bilibili. The collapsing on side, you had situations where Bilibili was first. But once again, in that same game, when it came to the fights, T1's execution is fucking marvelous, right? Here, of course, on the Poppy, Giga misplayed, you know, that's something that has been a real thing in this tournament. But the way they snap and they maneuver around the fight and found the engage and everybody collapses on the Keria ultimate on 2 and they just snap Jin's neck, beautiful. Obviously, we're not going to see Jin and Poppy blind to invite Nico against Kalista. Completely trash draft here from Bilibili in the 4-5 because ELK On had no impact on this one, but it's still important to highlight, you know? So the side punishing is a real thing. Now, I think I have shared enough of my thoughts for me to boil it down to somewhat of a prediction. I did predict coming into the tournament that I thought that this meta was as good as it can be for Bilibili. I think that's true for top lane. I think that's true for jungle. I think that's true for mid lane too. But I think the same thing can be said for the other side. FAKER has a lot of champions he can be mobile on, and I think it's hard to push him out, especially if that Sylas ban comes through. I think that Sylas ban is very, very good, in my opinion, and the Yone ban out too, and just play the Ahri meta where you invite Knight Ahri or you play your own Ahri, and I think that you're super happy. I think that a lot of these champions that he's been playing, right, fit the bill of playing isolated and invested, being the enemy being forced to invest a lot in order to break, you know? I think that Knight, it should be like a couple of percentages better than FAKER, but enough for me to be scared about it. Same thing for Bin. I think Bin is better than FAKER. Like if I made an all-pro team right now, I would put I would put GUMAYUSI, like with ELK right behind him, and then I would put Keria by far, then I would put Knight, and then I would put Bin, and then Jungle is a tough one. Like I think that it's easier to say ONER than it is to say Shun, right? Because Bilibili like looked rough at the beginning of the tournament and all that shit. I don't think Shun had a central role in Bilibili's success, you know? I think he looked pretty off, you know? See you. 2 messages comes in here to talk garbage. Look at that, man. The main concern for me, right? Like I said, that I do believe that Bilibili has a very, very good meta for them. The same thing is true for T1. My main concern is just Keria's form is just way better than all. I think just Keria is playing way better than On, and I think that T1 is contesting well in the other roles, that I think that this is going to be the difference maker. If On plays way better on the day than he has the entire tournament, I think that's going to be the difference maker. But there's no reason for me to believe that from what we've seen so far. There's just no reason to believe that right now. Like, if you think about all the supports that were heralded coming into this, right? Lehens, On, Mickey even. Mickey over Keria, dude. Delight, I think Delight, honestly guys, Delight has been giga carried by the fact that he got a 4-man engage on a Genji that was trolling. Meiko, like, supports have looked pretty bad at this tournament. Guys, supports have looked pretty fucking bad outside of Keria. Keria is by far the most impactful support of this tournament. It's not even close. It's really, really not close. It's just such a big gap between him and everybody else. And I think on that ground, I think there is a world and an argument for Keria being the best performing player at this tournament. You know, I think that gap in itself matters. You know, while everything else is more contested. You know, everything else is definitely more contested. So there's that. You know, like he has found a way to warp the game again. You know, he's found a way to warp the game again, and it's just such a elegant solution. You know, very, very elegant solution. I like it a lot. You know, it's like when I did my breakdown, I will just play it because I have. It's like for the real ones, they know already like what my take was on T1 coming into the tournament. But I will add it here just for the record. You know, it's fine. Where do I talk about T1? Changes to 1. On are the only 2 supports that, in my opinion, can top esports. So these were the weird teams coming into the tournament, right? T1, Weibo, top esports. Very hard to judge these teams. Very, very hard to judge. That's what I meant. I said these guys can win and be ass. Very, very hard to judge. Let me see if I can find the moment I talk about T1. So, is what I mentioned before. I think their lane phase, team fighting, they have micro levels that can compete with the best and be the best in the right circumstances. That is the point of entry, right? This biggest legacy, the strong, they come in their position when it comes down to it, and that is what it invites this very high range. They come in with the most heavy fucking legacy, the strongest legacy, the strongest clutch factor out of anybody. But the main question here, right, is champion death. That is where they suffer. Champion death is truly where they suffer. When it comes to Keria playing melee champs, it's not that he's mechanically bad playing them. It really isn't. It has never come down to them being mechanically bad at champs. But when it comes to macro, so this is how I describe T1. People have heard this many times. But T1 is at their best when they are playing bot lane pairings that goes and pressures through mid. So Lucian Nami, Kalista Renata, Lulu Aphelios, Senna, right? Senna. These are combos that pressure through mid and gain information through mid. Lux Caitlyn, another good shout. When they can pressure through mid, they are so fucking good. Yeah, so fucking good. Because it means that they pressure hard enough to get information for ZEUS and FAKER to push side lanes for free. And when they can do that, they meet up at the team fights and they outclutch everybody. But the issue now is that they need to connect with their support and jungle to contest side, to play together with FAKER and ZEUS. And this is something that they haven't done for the last 3 years, guys. And this is still true. This is still true. But the most elegant solution to it is, of course, what they played, right? These champions really, really break the game in terms of tempo, you know? And the reason I showcase this is because, like, I think for those people that follow my content know that I am very, very fair, but people coming back to me and saying, like, the T1 fans that don't consume the content are flaming me for it. But I think my take was pretty spot on. And obviously, like the range that I set, so basically I set a range 1 to 9. Basically, I thought this is where they place, because I did think that individually they are insane enough. And the point I made by champion depth is not that they can't play a lot of champs. It's more about this team is relying on each other, playing very specific things for the team to function as good as they do. Because if we look back, like if I show you guys the draft from last year, 2023, just to hammer home this point, is main event, pick and bans, bracket stage. Looking at what T1 was doing, it was the same, right? It's like FAKER playing space makers, Renata blind, then there was the Rakan. Let's take a look. T1, it was the Bard. It was once again Ozzy, right? And then Javan for Mr. ONER. It's like always it was FAKER, ONER, clearing the dirt, doing the dirty work, finding fights, finding engages, counter pick support, very mobile, let him cook, and then ZEUS on heavy carries, you know? Create that space for him and things work out. What is the worst version of T1 that we saw? Do you guys remember in LCK playoffs, this split? Do you guys remember when everybody hated their drafts? Let me see, spring playoffs. There was that round when they lost against How Alive. They went 0-3. You guys remember that shit? So they went 0-3. Let me find it. Do you guys remember this? It's like they were trying to piece it together in a way where Twisted Fate was a very strong pick. He's very good at it. Very, very good at it. But they couldn't piece it together because they were in situations where, of course, they didn't have enough initiative on the rest of the players, you know? That's the main thing. ZEUS is a great Twisted Fate. It really wasn't the issue, but look how they tried to solve it. Senna Sion, right? Senna Sion, they're playing Corki mid with Lee Sin. Like they were scrambling for champions that made sense together, right? And here they finally tried something in the shape of Rek'Sai Ari, but it was just a little bit too late. How Life was just way better on the day, you know? And then as everything progressed, T1, if we take a look at some of these games, Kalista, Nico into Varus Rel, counterpick support, right? And they just create initiative for Mr. Bombastic himself, you know? Here they have the K'Sante, which is of course something that was just really, really OP. And the main detail here about K'Sante is that K'Sante doesn't function like other tanks. K'Sante is strong on side, and K'Sante can snowball. So don't think K'Sante is the same as Maokai or Ornn, right? In the end here, Lucian Nami, a pairing that they were insane at. Lucian Nami pairings, they're fucking fantastic in. And the same pattern has always re-emerged. When they couldn't enforce their pattern, they looked a lot worse. But when they could enforce their pattern, they have looked like the best team in the world, you know? In the end, Zeri Annie came through, and Orianna was picked with Lucian Nami, and they lost game 5 against Genji. We had, of course, Mr. Zach here on ZEUS, and if I remember correctly, he did not look good on this, you know? He did not look good because he's losing side the whole game, you know? And I think that, if I remember correctly, Keen really, really deep fried this fucking game, you know? Really, really deep fried. Okay. Alright. So, I give slight edge to T1. I would be like, I think it's a very fucking close series. I do think that we have a very, very close series. And I am giga excited. I think that T1 should be favored. Keria's form is just immaculate. And I think the differences between the other roles, whatever you might think, is too small. I think it really comes down to, can On be comfortable? Can On be comfortable? I think if On plays a game where he has equal or more impact than Keria, I think that Bilibili should win those games. Really. I really think it just depends on On's form. I really think it comes down to On's form. I think if On comes out and has great form and he plays and he's fast on the map and playing dynamic like he did in the LPL or in MSI, then yeah, I think that Bilibili can win. But he's had a terrible tournament. Terrible tournament. He looked fine. He looked okay in the Rakan games. Okay? He looked fine. But he doesn't look like the best super player in the world, as I saw him to be coming into this tournament. Keria is. And I think currently Keria's had the best performance out of any player at this tournament. Okay. So I predict, I think it's a series that can go long, but I think series score never says the story of the series, because you can have a close 3-0, easy 3-0, you can have a 3-2, whatever, you know. So that's my prediction, guys. That's my prediction. That's where I land. What do you think about Tom saying they're gonna 3-0 Bilibili? Coach says they're gonna win hard. I don't know what to say, bro. Hey Yamato, you think Fly posting out Genji Smolder Trump card was huge for T1 draft? No. Like, bro. Him playing Smolder was known by everybody, I think. Correct pick. 50 points. It's hard, you know, because when the tournament started, I put money on Bilibili winning. Like, so that's running, but that's probably something that I'm gonna hedge, you know. I'm gonna hedge that bet with the T1 win, you know. I know that Tom is coach for T1, but who cares? All right. Show the celebrity rankings. How do I do that? Leaders? I am completely in the toilet, bro. I want to see this person's pick him. Crystal Ball. Hextech Drake, many pentakills. He's fucked. Alright, his Crystal Ball sucks. Alright, his Crystal Ball is ass. What's his picks? Right. Let me see his picks. Picks. T1 win. He predicted T1 win. Let's see play-ins. Alright, he missed 100 Thieves, but he got the gum. Alright, Swiss. Wow. Damn. Holy. That's kind of crazy. I got fly too, but this is kind of crazy. This is just fucking lucky, bro. Quarterfinals. Quarterfinals, he hit everything, bro. He hit everything. Weibo, bro, he picked two underdogs. That's pretty cold, bro. That's pretty cold. Semifinals. T1 Bilibili. And then finals, he has T1 winning. Alright, let me show you guys my picks. This is my pick'em. Play-ins. Atrocious. This is really, really bad. This is just stupid. Swiss. This was also giga dumb. Like, Genji is the easiest team to expect to go 3-0. Like, this was just dumb. My whole pick'em was just all in on Bilibili, like ass. But I got the fly one. I got the fly, so that's cool. I think like Bilibili was my favorite. Was my favorite to win the tournament, but Bilibili going 3-0, there's definitely like they could lose, you know. Quarterfinals. In terms of how I presented it, I give my reasonings for who I expected to be favorite. LNG and How Life. I did say that these two matchups are gonna be really close. So who cares? Semifinals. The Genji pick. I should have dropped him the moment Lehens and Pace played that shit against FlyQuest, bro. That was a dropper, bro. That was a dropper. Easy dropper. Now in the finals. Crystal Ball. This is deep fried. This is completely fucked. This is lost already. Baron Steals, we're in the pocket. This is also, we're in the pocket. No reverse sweeps. Poppy, most played. We hit it, no problem. Unless Maoka AD carries picked, and then we're fucked. Kesante lost out, but it started off strong. It started off very, very strong. And then Yon. I think I'm right and the teams are wrong, if I'm going to be honest. Who have the most total deaths? Unlucky. I'm almost 0-3, so that's complete ass. Who will get the most first bloods? Way. Jesus Christ, that's horrible. Viper, horrible. Aiming ass. Redemption. Knight. Woo! PSG hit. Which team will win the shortest game? That's wrong, because Mad Lions has the shortest game against GAM. And then which team will have the most Baron steals? I believe in the P-Nutty, but T1 is winning here. I think they got 2 already. And then which team will win Worlds, and then which team will play most different champs. I think this is currently right, and this is currently right. Let's just see. DPM, Pick'em's tracker. You know, the silly thing about the T1 thing is that I knew T1 was the easy choice, but I got into my own head so far that I was like, okay, T1 is the easy choice, so it can't be them. That's it. Just dumbass reasoning. I was like, T1 is the easy choice, so it can't be them. That was... highest win rate Galio, bro. And then it's like, yeah, unlucky. Rel, I thought Rel would get banned more often 4-5. That's where I landed. That's why I thought that Rel, like I thought Leona would have more deaths. So, oof. Oof. And then oof. Like plain and simple oof. It was hard for me to judge how big the Aurora nerfs were, honestly. It was very, very hard for me. You need 5 games. Gallia has only had 4. I don't think it would be here if it only has had 4. I think that Gallia has had 5 games, no? Let's take a look. Galio. Alright, let's go Galio 14-18. No, that doesn't work. World's main event. It's 6-2, bro. Moham lying, guys.